Oh, hey, I'm Nate Sampson, and I welcome you to this week's episode of Marketing Through the Lens, empowering you, the online community, to craft better video content. Today, I'm going to be discussing feelings. Yep, get ready for that. I'm talking about how your stories and nonverbal cues can help in connecting with your audience. We will be discussing best practices for really connecting when you're on camera. Before I dive into the deep end, I want to remind you to keep an eye on my website, socialprovideo.com, where I will be continually publishing free Through the Lens marketing guides and checklists based on this podcast channel. So today, the first thing I want you to think about is your feelings. Oh, and no, don't worry, it's not one of those podcasts. In the marketing world, it's been a long-known fact that people connect and react with intention based on how they feel. Most importantly, how you and your brand make them feel and what you're inspiring your audience to do based on those emotions. One great example of this was given in my last podcast episode on your brand identity. So if you missed out on that, be sure to check it out so you're up to speed on today's topic. So when getting ready to storyboard or plan out your next cinematic masterpiece, and by now we know that planning is imperative to break through all the digital noise online, the number one question should be, how do I want my audience to feel? And if you haven't yet defined this, I challenge that you should figure this out immediately. Feelings inspire action, and you should always define how you want your audience to feel before you press that big red record button. There's certain techniques and ways you can craft how your audience is feeling. This is done through the selection of words you use, your tonality, your language, calls to action, and even those nonverbal cues, such as your body language, your presence, and demeanor. At the top of this list of techniques to inspire feeling within your video content is to be empathetic with your audience. Put yourself in the position of your viewers. What is their challenge? How are they feeling about it? Are they frustrated? Are they angry? Are they overwhelmed? You'll want to proactively come up with an approach to your next video that positions you as understanding and having been there in the past. After all, you have and found and are the solution to their challenge, right? So share what experiences you went through that led you to find the answers, validate the feelings of your viewers, spell out their concerns, and have a warm and kind approach to offering your solution to them. After all, you're here to solve your client's problem, not to sell, or always be closing. Yeah, we all know the ABCs, just please don't. That corporate seminar from the 90s does not hold true today. It's time to move on. This is a new generation of consumers, and it's all about connection. The hard sell just isn't going to cut it any longer, at least not for me. No thank you. I'm good. I'm done. Secondly, use positive language in your approach to inspire positive feelings with your viewing audience. I do wish we could all be Mr. Rogers or Bob Ross, but that's just not the case. But try to keep the negative language to a minimum. Negative language can and will often trigger negative thoughts and negative emotions that can be a barrier to engagement. This really is a tough one because there are plenty of examples in the marketing world of intentionally instilling fear or fostering anger, for example. I call it stirring up the Kool-Aid or trolling, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure all of us that own a television see this every day in one way or another, and all this does have the potential to rally and provoke an audience to action. It's quite often not the kind of lasting, perpetual action that positive language and emotions can provide for. Negative emotions are an energy, but are often short-lived and can lead to avoidance behavior rather than engagement. Research has actually shown that positive emotions are more motivating and can lead to increased engagement over negative emotions. When people feel positive emotions like joy or inspiration, they're more likely to take action and engage with your content and ultimately your products and services. Next, you must consider what type of body language you're using when you're on camera. And no, I don't just mean what do I do with my hands? That's for another podcast episode. But your body language and appearance subconsciously communicate to your audience your emotions and how you're feeling, which will dictate how they feel. If you look tired and stiff while you're recording a video, promoting a 7-hour energy drink or whatever, it's probably doing you more harm than good. And all this is not related to body language. It reminds me of a certain Focus vitamin commercial where the spokes guy had a wandering eye. And I promise I'm not making fun of the guy, like at all, seriously. We're all different and all perfectly flawed, and that's cool. But I can't help but this guy with the wandering eye in this Focus vitamin commercial was a factor that made me feel a little bit like this vitamin might do harm. Yeah, shame on me, I know. But that's the truth and how I feel. And although this was unintentional and not actually an example of body language, it highlights why even nonverbal clues are extremely important in your videos. Is your body language communicating to your audience to accept or reject the information you're sharing? Use open and welcoming body language when talking to your audience. Smile, nod, and maintain eye contact with the lens, that thing right there. This will make your viewing audience feel more comfortable, open, and at ease with what you're sharing. Bring your warm and inviting self, even if you cringe at the thought of having to do so. If I can be the least bit inviting in my dad joke, sarcastic kind of way, then I'm absolutely positive that you can too. And to a much greater extent, perhaps. Just remember, you do you, boo-boo. After all that, now we're really getting to the fun part, telling a story with your video. Stories have perhaps the most emotionally evocative framework to connect with people and to let them know that you understand their challenges. Make it fun, make it descriptive, and unapologetically you, despite the critics. I really do feel bad about the guy in the previous example about the Focus vitamin commercial, but again, I have to share my truth. And sharing your own truth of that story that led you to the solution that you provide, you now create that sense of empathetic understanding with your audience. The stories you tell should lead your audience to know, like, and trust you through your shared experience of having struggled with similar challenges. When your story is crafted properly, your audience will relate to you, and they will look to you as the expert that can help them overcome their challenges. And lastly, don't forget the visuals. Your videos can and should create an emotional response and inspire people to feel a certain way. And you should know by now exactly what and how you want your audience to feel. I'll share a few questions you should always have answered before crafting your next video. When you're recording those awesome videos, what is the surrounding environment telling your audience about you? Does it look like you're in a college dorm room or a bat cave? What are the colors? What are the scenes of the videos? And how are these colors and objects really making the audience feel? No matter how positive your message and story are, the bat cave likely isn't giving your audience that sense of an open communication you were hoping for. Also, what about the sound quality? I love a good cartoon too, but if you sound like the teacher Charlie Brown, then I'm not going to be connecting with your videos like you wanted. Remember, you're positioning yourself as the expert, and no matter how positive, open, and inviting you are through your language and nonverbal cues, or no matter how compelling the story you have is, if it isn't clearly seen, heard, or understood, then there's likely not going to be that connection point you were looking for. As my 4th grade teacher said, anything worth doing is worth doing well. And on the topic of feelings, I feel like I've thrown enough emotions around for one podcast episode. So yeah, please reach out, connect, and comment. I want to hear your likes, dislikes, complaints, and grievances, and I'm always open to having a discussion with you. You can find every possible way under the sun on how to get in contact with me at socialprovideo.com. Now get out there, wear your heart on your sleeve, and jump in front of the camera. And always, you do you, boo-boo. See you next time.